I started in the audio industry kind of almost by mistake. I had a bit of an interest into it and was walking across campus. And I went across to this party. There was a bunch of people sitting there, and it was a theater party. And I realized that I was probably going to take a couple of minors in theater because this was a great place. And I had to fake it that evening. So I said I knew something about audio because I had done a little bit in high school. And they happened to be looking for a head of audio that day. So I started in audio the next day. They handed me the keys. I walked up to the room, and it took me 45 minutes to find the power switch to the Ward-Beck console. Shortly after that, I had to start creating tape. They had tape recorders there. There were no books. There were no manuals. There was nothing back then. There was no one to teach me back then. And I'm not about to lie on what I actually started to do. Started creating tapes, ran them during that year. The following summer, I started working for Festival Lanksville, which was my first professional gig working audio in theater. But back then, we had to create tapes, and we used splicing blocks. We used to cut the splicing and put the pieces of tape together. But I didn't know that. I didn't know what this white bits of tape were lying around for, but I did find in the tape tray this white stuff that you could kind of stick, not flat to the tape on these little bars that were sitting across the tape decks. No, I used to go around, and those were my spike marks, and actually used to run audio cues by lining these things up with little bits of mark on them and firing them off in professional theater. That's how I started. About a year later, I got a book. Changed the whole world. Learned how to cut tape, how to put the stuff together, and started working professionally in theater. Moved to Toronto. I'm going to say in 72 is when I moved to Toronto. First day in Toronto, I was walking up Yonge Street, met a friend for lunch, walked around the corner, and got my first gig working in Toronto Workshop Productions, or TWP. They had burnt down their sound system the year before, and my job was to go in there and put a sound system in for about $1,000. 2 Dynaco amplifiers, a Tascam 5, I think it was, little 6 in, 4 out with a meter bridge console, and up I was there running with amplifiers I had to build during a rehearsal period. So I watched George Luscombe during the rehearsal period of Les Canadiens, and I built amplifiers up there. My career sort of began to get going shortly thereafterwards with, I ended up going to Stratford. Sorry, I went to Shaw first, and then back to TWP, then Stratford for a brief period of time. And I ended up back in Toronto and ran into this little place called Harbourfront. Harbourfront was absolutely nothing when we got there. It had 6 microphones, EV35s, 2 Yamaha mixers, 6-channel and a 12-channel, and about 3 2100 Yamaha 100-watt amplifier mixers and a couple of 2-way boxes to go with it. When I left 13 years later, we had probably 4 running Meyer sound systems. We had a variety of sound consoles, setups, shops rotating equipment around, and probably 5 to 6 full-time audio people working there. It really did come a long way. And I had the great fun and honor of being down there and spending millions of their dollars. It was a great time. Harbourfront was a great place to work for because back then we were sort of a nowhere zone. No one really knew who we were. We were down by the lake. We were federally funded. We had more money than God. We just kind of went with where we thought we should go. We were allowed to take huge risks. Some of the risks that we took were the Premier Dance Theatre was one of our most risk-taking places. It was a cutting-edge space. We were supposed to do a design for theatre, for dance, for Toronto dancers, for Canada also. And we were working with Artec out of New York as our theatre consultants. And the quick story is I went New Year's Eve down to see Dreamgirls in New York, on Broadway, and saw these. I couldn't see the sound system. Could not see the sound system. So at intermission, I went to the sound man and said, "Where's the sound system?" He said, "Those little boxes over there, those are them. Come back and see me afterwards." Afterwards, this is New Year's Eve. I went back just before my girlfriend at the time wanted to drag me out to go watch the ball. We never did see the ball drop, but we got near it. Showed me prototypes of the Meyer speakers, the UPAs, and I came back and just raved about them to our people in Toronto and Artec and so forth. And we were able to put in the very, very first Meyer installation in Canada, and it really did set the tone for audio within Harbourfront Centre, because we kept buying more Meyers and putting them basically in all our spaces. I left the audio industry shortly after that. I stopped becoming a mixer, audio operator, repair person, and went off more into the management side. But have always stayed true to trying to follow technology and where technology is going within the audio industry, and usually in the live performance spaces, soft seaters. I think where the industry is going now is we've gone way beyond trying to distort the air and making it loud. I think we're coming right around to bringing the volumes down. I'm finding it fascinating watching people mix lower levels. You don't have to listen to a concert at 105, 110 dB. Bringing it back down to 95, 85 dB is much harder to do, but the artists are beginning to work with you on that, and the PA is now good enough that it's being able to come down. The noise floors are that good. And what I'm really beginning to enjoy now is dynamic range is beginning to just come back in to live PA. We don't have to sit there trying to ping it into the red all the time. We're now trying to actually bring dynamic range back into the show, having loud pieces, but then pulling it right down so you can hear the whispers on stage. I think one of the biggest things that happened in audio lately is being able to have the audio engineer walk on stage with the artist and with a tablet or some other device actually be able to interact with the artist and stand beside a bass player or a pianist or even a flute player or what have you and hear what they're hearing and hear the hall and hear the monitors and be able to adjust whatever is available. I think now technology and audio are all beginning to come together and support the artists, and the technician is now beginning to work one-on-one with the artists in a live situation, then going back out there and enjoying the audience and hearing it from a front of house point of view.